Hey, JD here. Welcome to the Mead House. You know, over the past several years, we've brought you over 150 episodes of mead making education, information, and entertainment. More than 100 guests have stopped by the Mead House, professional mead makers, medal winning home mead makers, competition organizers, experts on yeast and honey, and brewers just like you and me have all visited to share their knowledge. Hey, the Mead House is produced for home mead makers and brewers looking for a bit of inspiration and information from the many guests and discussions we have here at the house. You can help support the Mead House by joining the Mead House Keyholder Club on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com and search for the Mead House. There's also a link in the show notes. For as little as $2 a month, you can become a keyholder. We've teamed up with some great companies to provide thank you gifts for your support. So get on over to Patreon, join the Mead House Keyholder Club, and get your own set of keys to the Mead House. You can listen to the Mead House podcast with your favorite player, and be sure to rate us 5 stars on iTunes or your favorite listening venue. The Mead House, mead making entertainment you just don't want to miss. Hey, welcome to the Mead House, and welcome to episode number 196. You know, I was just out in the garage repairing the weed eater after trying to trim a palm tree when Jeff and Ryan rolled up, and I'll probably have to dust the windowsills in the spare room after they leave. Hey, my name is JD Webb, and you are at the Mead House for the next 90 minutes. Hey, don't forget the Mead House podcast. We're just everywhere. Check us out on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and now on Amazon Music, blah, 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 blah. I'll tell you what, they're all up on the front page of the website, themeadhouse.com. In this episode, in segment 1, as we head to the finish line with a couple more shows this session, we continue to check in with some home mead makers about how they handle their brewing during the pandemic. And we talked to some who found some extra time to run some experiments a little bit. A few caught up on some household chores, and in this episode we talked with an award-winning Adam Bystrom, another outstanding home mead maker, to find out how the pandemic might have changed his brewing habits. And in segment 2, sours and tart summertime ideas for a day at the beach, the backyard barbecue, or just simply sitting on the porch after a day of yard work. I think Ryan might have had something to do with this, but as I found out earlier during pre-show, he didn't. But I know this is right up Ryan's alley, so we'll talk sours and tarts here in segment 2. And then, of course, in segment 3, hey, the Social Club. This is where we try to answer questions from mead makers with no formal expertise other than what we've experienced in our own brew house. This episode, we tackle questions like, will mead clear if you use opaque juices? I don't know, we'll find out. How about the difference between Star San and one-step sanitizers and more? All right here at the Mead House. But first, hey, thanks to all the Mead House key holders like Chop and Brew, who recently joined, that help keep the Mead House podcast free. Thank you, Chop and Brew. Hey, you too can become a Mead House key holder and help support the show for as little as $2 a month. We've got some great thank you gifts to send out to you, plus a listing of key holder only content. So get on over to patreon.com, search for the Mead House, or you can just simply click on the link in the show notes. What are we drinking tonight? You know, I forgot to tell. Well, Adam's been here before, so I'm sure he's listening. And if he doesn't know, he'll run to the refrigerator and grab something else. Two-fisting it here at the Mead House. That seems to be the norm around here anymore. Tonight is Tequila Tuesday, and I'm doing a tequila that I thoroughly enjoy. It's called Grand Mayan. They call it an ultra age. Just simply, it's an extra añejo. But in 2006, they created a new category. You don't hear about it so often out there. Usually called extra añejo. That's what you commonly hear. But they call it ultra age. And this is a tequila that's aged longer than 3 years, and such as extra añejo. This stuff is outstanding. I really love this stuff. Grand Mayan, it's an 80 proof tequila. It's got a nutty aroma to it, along with the little bit of the bell char and vanilla. Wow. Take a sip. You immediately get the sweetness of the agave coming in, and then followed by the vanilla, and then the barrel char, and then you start getting these little hints of cinnamon and clove on the mid palate, and then it finishes with a nice spicy, nutty finish on it. This is really good stuff. Smooth as glass. In my other hand, I got my box today. I got my Sap House box that you make up a song. If I could still play the keyboard, I'd probably make up a little ditty. I got my Mead House box today, or my Sap House box today. Sap House Meadery. I'm drinking rosé. Now this is a rose hip hibiscus honey cider, and by God, this one comes in a 750 ml bottle, guys. Thank you, Ash. Actually, no, thank you, Evan. uh, my first, and I cheated. I had a couple of sips of it before the show started. I'll take another one. Well, first of all, the aroma. This thing smells like a bouquet of flowers. I mean, there's a little. It's got an appley, almost a, I don't know, like a tart apple aroma to it. But then the bouquet of flowers, a little bit of honey on the back in the background. Oh, man, I mean, you could just set this on the table and smell it all day. Mm. Oh man, this is definitely this is an outstanding cider. Rose hip and hibiscus. Now it's got that rose color to it, kind of a deep rose, a little redder than a rose, but it's very nice. Uh, I get a little bit of cinnamon in this one too in the back, and the tartness and the apples really come through. Mm. Oh, this is definitely a summertime drinker right here. This over ice, maybe even finish it off with a little sprig of mint. This stuff is really good, really really good, Jeff. Because I know you got your box today too. So what?
Yes, I did.
So what did you put in your cup?
So, Mead House fashion. I have two glasses in front of me, and yes, one of them is the Sap House. I cracked open the bottle of chamomile and mint because I'm familiar with chamomile. I've played with chamomile before,
Yes,
and
you have.
we were just talking a couple weeks ago about mint and how much I'm not excited about trying mint because it is problematic. I think it's way too easy to overdo it, and it is not overdone. The aroma is light, pleasant, and full disclosure here. I finished dinner about 3 minutes before I came on this call. My palate's a little blown out, but I'm getting honey. I'm getting a floral aroma. The mint isn't strong. The chamomile is much stronger in the aroma, along with the initial sip. The mint kind of it plays nicely, but it's not obtrusive. It's not in your face. It has. It's very light in body wise and pleasant. It has a little bit of a quality of like. I don't want to say it's a mouthwash like quality, but when you swallow or spit out the mouthwash and you take a deep breath and you get that cool, refreshing feeling, that I'm getting that kind of the lingering menthol from the mint. Yeah, it's light, it's nice. I'm, like I said before, I'm intimidated to do any kind of a mint related thing, and yeah, this is really fun. In my other glass, I've got a beer, and I freely admit that the name of this beer is what made me get it. It's called Cobra Scare 53. And it calls itself an Ozark Sour Ale, Ozark Sour Wheat Ale, sorry. And it is just a little bit weird. It's got the haze and the body of a wit, but it drinks like a lager. There's a little bit of sourness to it, and freely admit this is part of what inspired that segment 2 idea for me, because yeah, no, it's sour. It's good, and I think honestly, this needs to be a braggot of some kind.
Outstanding. All right, Jeff. Sounds like you got some. Cup. Well, I won't ask you what's in your third cup. I think we run that one into the ground. Anyway, so Ryan, what is in your cup? Now you're not even signed up to get the boxes yet. What am I going to have to do?
Well, I told Ash that if he was gonna do um a what am I saying, a barrel series, if he was gonna do a barrel series box, I'd be I'd be open to that. So I don't know if he joked around. Maybe he can put one together for me. Maybe he can make a Ryan special, barrel series box, and send that out. 'Cause I love those.
I'm sure
Those
he'll hear it.
are very good. So Ash, you can contact me. You got my cell number if we need to chat about any of that, or send me a message.
There you go.
I've got 2 bottles in front of me. One is okay. So the first one is from Nathan Stigman. He gave me some bottles. He said he wanted some feedback. So Nathan, here's your feedback for this one. This is Tenebrae Kalium. He names all of his bottles Latin, I think, and my Latin is rusty at best. I think at this point my Greek is better than my Latin. So, but this is blueberries and black currant and Yaupon holly honey. I'm not familiar with that kind of honey, but blackberries and blackcurrant, 8% alcohol by volume. It is jammy. I mean, it's like if you've got a blueberry, like a dark fruit jam. Very nice, really good. I don't like doing this because I think it kind of sometimes it sounds a little cheesy, but I'm gonna take a sip. I typically like to just talk about it. But I'm gonna take one more little sip here, kind of just prepping everybody.
Yep.
Yeah, it is. It's delightful. Again, it's light bodied. It's got good balance. It's not overly sweet. I know he told me, he prepped me, so it's going to be sweet. There's some great tannins in it, and it's very good. It's very delightful. Again, it's one of those that is is um, you still probably want it in a smaller quantity. I don't know if I could drink like a 12 ouncer of this, but very good. Yeah. In my other glass is from our guest tonight, Adam Bystrom. This is his black currant, and his black currant is again semi-sweet, but really, really, really well balanced. It doesn't drink overly sweet. I like my stuff dry. It's got like a little sense of um uh of dryness to it, a perceived dryness. Really, a little bit of tartness. It is very, very good. Well done, Adam Bystrom, and we'll bring him in here shortly, or right now. So we are continuing our home brewing during the pandemic series with another great home mead maker. Adam Bystrom comes back to the show. He's been on in the past. I don't know the episode number off the top of my head, but go back and take a look for it. And he sent me a few bottles. We did a little bottle swap. He's another one of those guys, those mead epicenter guys here in Minneapolis, and was able to get so Adam, welcome to the show tonight. Well done on this mead, and what's in your cups tonight, plural.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for having me. Always great to talk to you guys, and swap bottles with Ryan. It's cool you're trying the black currant. That's like usually that's definitely a mead that I'm like uncomfortable making because it's just one fruit, not any spice, and just kind of plain Jane. That's not something I think I'm more known for, I guess. But so I guess I liked how it turned out. It was fun working with that fruit. I guess I wanted to really showcase that for doing it the first time. But yeah. So I'm drinking 2 years Ryan. So first, your Ryan Braggett, the orange peel. So I opened that right when I got the call, and it's almost gone. I can't put it down. I want a 12-pack of this right away. It's so good. You pointed out, you're like, this is lighter and pretty refreshing. Like, that's an understatement. I could drink this all weekend. Like, this is incredible. And I figured, okay, let's go total other end of the spectrum. And I just popped the umami one, and yeah, it's total other end. I see why you call it umami. I get more of it's a little woody. I get some dried fruit. The earthiness. And there's some I feel like I was getting some spice in the aroma, like clove or something. But I think it's a little sweeter on my palate than umami. But I definitely see where you're coming from with that. Is this the one that Matt Whitey tried as well?
Yeah, so Matt Whitey named that one. He called it umami, and I went with it. So,
okay,
that is a Matt Whitey named kind of Braggett that I made, and yeah, it is the weirdest thing that I've ever made. I made it from a pantry clean out. Just had all kinds of weird stuff sitting around the pantry, a pinch of this, a pinch of that, et cetera, et cetera. And it was, dark and heavy, right? And made it, and it just changed. It was like Jekyll and Hyde every time I opened a bottle. Jeff and JD both had a bottle that months ago, and it was kind of drinking back then almost like a barley wine, and now it's completely changed, and it's changed a few times in between that, and it's just really, really weird. And when Matt opened up the bottle, he said, "Hey, this reminds you of umami or something, something like that." And I said, "Okay, well, let's call this phase of it umami," and in 3 months it might taste like something totally different. But yeah, it's just the weirdest. It's the weirdest little mead I've ever made. So I'm glad that you were able to try it.
It's like a avocado blossom porter Braggett that you made with prunes or something like that. That's I get all those flavors. It's great though, man. It's totally different. I'm so glad that I basically drank the entire bottle of the orange peel Ryan Braggett, because this is taking over my palate. So
yeah,
I'm glad I drank the other one first.
Wow.
Great. Well, Adam, welcome back. Thanks for being here with us. And I should have mentioned this black currant has got just a little bit. I don't know if it's carbonated or if you call it carbonated or semi-carbonated, but when you open the bottle, it's got the sound. So you've got something in there, and it's really nice. However it is, whatever you call it right now, it's really good. Yep, exactly. So how has brewing during the last year been for you?
So I just actually took a photo of all my 22-ounce bottles that I have. I organized them and put them in boxes and sent them to a buddy. And I have 133 22-ounce bottles. And that's just for personal share with people non-comp bottles, and I've got 36 more that it's coming in the next month or so that I'm going to be bottling. So it's been busy. I've actually, so it's strange. So like when kind of March, you know, is when it kind of lockdown hit, whatever, I kind of went into full on brew mode. And I've always kind of lately, the past like couple of years, I brew 4 batches kind of at a time. And I like to do 5 gallons. So I've been just ramping that up. So like as soon as those 4 are done, I'm just like boom, 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 4 more. So like every weekend it's like 4 more. And so it was my basement was like, it was constant, like my chest freezer was constantly getting turned over every 2 weeks. Carbing, I like to carb for pressure carb for 2 weeks. So it was like that. My chest freezer was always had my keg in there carbing for, it was months. You know, like every Sunday, it was like, all right, honey, I need, you know, an hour or so in the basement. Got to do meat stuff. Got bottle. You know? And it just got to the point where it was so much. I had so much, and we have a 5-month-old, and I kind of saw this coming, and I was like, all right, I gotta stop because I'm not going to have a lot of time. So I slowed down quite a bit. I'd say a few months ago, like maybe like when he was born, like 5 months ago, and then I've been picking it back up, and then now I've got a few more batches coming through, and I think so. I was talking to you when I dropped off about how so you like more drier stuff. I like drier stuff, but I don't make drier stuff. I'm still trying to really hone in on the semi-sweet session, and just really trying to get really great at that or good at that. But all I've been doing lately is dry. So I'll have to swing by and give you a couple of dries because in about a week and a half I have a dry coming up, and another 2 weeks I have another dry coming up. So I've been steering more towards what I like to drink because I have so much stuff that I've just been playing with, and I like dry session trads, and that's like I just made 3 different dry session trads, and that's totally different than what I've been doing basically all quarantine. I just kind of flipped the switch, and I was like, all right, let's make some summer stuff, and instead of messing around and spending too much time in the carboy, and you know, because I have so much time in the basement playing with this batch for too long, you know, and so just keeping it simple now, I guess.
Excellent. So, yeah, you were brewing at one point about so if I'm doing the math here, and you know, and I was a liberal arts major, so I took one math class in college, and it was called Math for Liberal Arts Majors. But the 4 batches at a time and 5-gallon batches, you were brewing 20 gallons a time, and you were flipping those pretty quickly. So, man, you must have. What were you? I guess aside from perfecting your process, what else were you finding as you were kind of going through that much mead? Because your stuff phenomenal, and your awards, you know, prove that I'm not the only guy thinking it. So what did you keep picking up as you were kept, you know, making that much mead time after time?
That I wasn't getting through my to brew list fast enough. I was literally just trying to burn through some of it. Like I really just, I have, like, I'll be making a batch, or I like thinking about a batch, and then while it's like, I don't know, while it's fermenting and I'm, you know, doing, you know, feeding it nutrients and everything, I'm thinking about the next one, and it's like, I have this like itch. I love making it, you know, like making it for me is so much more fun than drinking it. It's I don't know if anybody else has this problem, but I love making it. I feel like I think I've said this before. I bet I probably drink maybe 10% of what I make. You know, like the rest goes whatever goes to comps is not that much now, but I give away so much. I just love making it, and I think that's why I make 5-gallon batches now instead of ones. Well, ones were great for honing in like my process and everything, but yeah, I just love making it. It's I made it like a fruited I made a raspberry cacao, and I'm like, what? I gotta make a fruit and vanilla. I gotta make something to totally offset that one in case I want to blend the two. It's just to mess around, or yeah, I don't know. I'm just always too many ideas and too much honey, and the thing with session meads is you don't have to really worry about you do because honey costs money, but it's like what's 8 pounds of honey or whatever compared to if you're doing like a standard strength. It's so different. Like you can really like a 5-gallon bucket goes so much further. Than if you're making just sessions, you can just play with 1-gallon buckets and just forever. And it's so easy just to keep making them when you're doing the sessions, I guess. And
you touched on it a little bit there, Adam. During the year where you found yourself, ramping up and brewing more and more and more, did you have an opportunity to do something just completely off the cuff, something totally unique, something maybe you've never done before? And if you did, how did it turn out?
Yeah, I guess nothing like too crazy. Just maybe try to do combinations better. I have Bochet's have been like something that I've been like obsessed with kind of lately. So that's been something that I've been really just trying to find reasons to. Or not just Bochet's, but finding reasons to add caramelized honey into a mead. So Ryan's got a Sizer Bochet, so that got I want to say that's about half or a little bit more than half caramelized honey. But there's quite a few of my meads that I made in the past year that are 15%, 20% caramelized honey, and I would never claim that there's caramelized honey in there. Like people, you might not ever know. Like I might not caramelize it too far. It's just so fun to see what different honeys do, especially in the slow cooking them. You can and then just babying it and monitoring it and seeing how the flavors change.
Yeah.
That's been fun, and I guess I'm not too scared to slow cook whatever honeys just to see what happens.
No, I think there's a number of flavors that you can get out of caramelized honeys, stopping along the way during that cook down process. The different caramel flavors and whatnot that come out of that. I think just doing that process alone, even if you didn't add anything else to it, would bring a degree of change to, let's say, if you started out with a standard, for all intents and purposes, the Ryan Braggot, commonly known around here, and then introduce caramelized honey at different heat levels into that Ryan Braggot recipe, and coming up with different flavors. I think that would be a lot of fun to do as well.
I think one of the biggest batch surprises that I've had in the past year is my latest batch of Sizer Bochet that I give to Ryan. And so I set out. I've heard of people doing Sizer Bochets, and it just seems like it's like just a great combination. With the aim of doing like a caramel apple. Like in your mind, caramel apple. And so I set out and I caramelized. I want to say, let me just check right now. Yeah, it was Brazilian eucalyptus, and that already has like some toffee and caramel notes. And so that was my aim, from the get-go. And as I tasted the honey along the way, I felt like it was getting to the point that it was going to have that nice caramely note. And as I was, during fermentation, everything, cold crashing, stabilizing, back sweetening. I started back sweetening with a couple different honeys. I did some more raw Brazilian eucalyptus, avocado blossom. I think maybe some yellow clover. Nope, I did hairy vetch. And then it started, so like I did all these honeys to try to make this caramel apple, but it didn't, it wasn't tasting like caramel apple. It started tasting like just a baked apple, like maybe the inside, like a baked apple strudel without the spices. And I was just like, well, screw the caramel apple. This is great, but I want to try this again. You know, like this is, like I love where this turned out. And it was so much fun. Like I was just like, I want to caramelize more honey and just maybe do it a little bit longer next time, or do a different honey or maybe it was the apple, you know, like the cider that I got. I don't know, but yeah, it was just so neat that I felt like I got a little bit of that topping caramel, but it was more like the baked apple that came through, and it was a big surprise, and it was like a happy accident, and maybe you want to do the best again.
For our listeners out there, Adam has actually been on a show twice, guys. His first, and I'm going to read this right from the show notes, episode 129. He's a Minnesota native, has 6 International Major Cup wins, a Minnesota State Fair Best of Show, 2 first-round placements in this year's National Homebrew Competition, and he's only been making mead for a year and a half. Adam Bystrom joins us tonight. That was on episode 129. And then on episode 149, episode 129, well, you can look them up, our listeners out there, easy to find. Episode 149 is in the first 3 AMMA Mead Maker of the Year competitions, Mash Outdoors, Midwinter. He hit the podium 18 times, had 10 wins, alone at the Minnesota Mash Out, 9 medals, and 1 honorable mention. So Adam Bystrom, when Adam talks, you mead makers need to perk up and listen.
Well, I mean, I'm lucky that you know, like Ryan says, like Minnesota is like, we're super lucky for some reason.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, man, I remember when I went to my first homebrew club meeting, and I got a hold of Al Boyce, and everybody knows him now.
Yep.
And I showed up, and I was like, are people gonna, you know, like, mead, is that a thing? And he's like, yeah, it'll be fine here. You know? And every time we just had our spring homebrew sampler, our homebrew review on Saturday. And I want to say 2/3, maybe 60% of what people brought was mead. So it's like, we were such a great community, and like talking about Shays, I mean, Matt Whitey, like I talked to him, and he was like, you know, do the slow cook method, you know, like do it on low, you know, like and you know, you get these like great guys that are willing to give you feedback and pointers, and it's, right. I mean, that's what it's about, and it's, yeah, I mean, that's where you learn.
Since episode 149, have you hit the competition trail at all since then? Of course, that was back in 2020, February of 2020. So probably not a whole lot going on, I guess, so far as competition goes, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with everything's kind of up in the air now, yeah. I guess. Yeah, the Mead Maker of the Year series ended pretty good. That was tons of fun. Yeah, and I mean, I love entering comps, but no comp is better to enter, in my opinion, than the state fair. I love going against local guys. That's always, that'll always be my favorite deal, because I mean, you know the names, and
right.
I mean,
well, and it's a friendly competition. Everybody knows everybody. You know.
Yeah. It's so much fun. Like, I mean, like, there's like, yeah, it is so friendly, and it's just fun, and honestly, like with competition, I feel like, you know, without it, you're going to try to be better. And, you know, some people are like it, some people don't. That's totally cool. But like for me, like it just drives me to make better stuff. And I feel like I need something like that to keep me going. Otherwise I'd just be making off dry session trats all day. Like that's all I'd make. And I'd be happy with that. my wife would not. She likes semi-sweet, like fruited stuff.
Sure.
But like, it's, yeah, I like that, like, motivation,
So what's on the back burner for the future here? What are you looking to do? Anything in particular? Any flavors you want to play around with? Anything you want to try that you've never tried before?
Yeah, I'm getting 5 gallons, maybe 6 gallons of Riesling must from local homebrew shop pretty soon here. Very excited for that. For some reason, last year I missed the whole wine must deal, and I've only done it once before, and it was Muscat, and I loved it. I did a Muscat orange blossom, which is like, you cannot go wrong. I mean, anybody makes that, it's gonna be great. And then I did a Muscat peach and orange. That was a lot of fun. Muscat pear and lemon. It was just, it was just a lot of fun with to pair with the must and the spice, like the zest and the fruit.
Undiluted, undiluted. You used the must straight out of the bucket.
Yeah, so I'll take the must. I'll stabilize it for 24 hours, and then I'll break it up into 3 different batches, and then I will dilute it with water to get it to the gravity I want, and then add the honey to bring it up to where I want. I usually want all my stuff to finish around 6.5%. But what's so great about that is, so I just saw someone on Modern Mead Makers talking about, like, adding hops to a Pyment, and it's just, I love the idea because I love IPAs, I love beers, I love beer, and like, just Nelson Sauvin just kind of like, just sounds like the perfect hop to add to a Riesling. So it'd be nice so I'll just do a Riesling Pyment, Nelson Sauvin Riesling, Pyment, and then the third one, not sure, probably add some fun fruit, maybe spice, maybe Bochet, but maybe not Bochet, but who knows? Yeah, not sure about the third, but it would be neat to do like 3 different batches, and then we'll see.
Yeah,
there's that.
I've had, Adam, some Pyments that were made with hops, and I think it was like the Sauvignon Blanc, grape, and then maybe like a Nelson Sauvin or a Cascade in there, which just really kind of adds to that flavor profile of the grape. You kind of get a 1 + 1 = 3 kind of thing going on there, where those kind of aroma notes from the hops, play with what you'd expect from the grape, and then you add that honey. So I think you're onto something there. I think you could really play with some great musts and hops together, or some great musts and hops together to make the base of your Pyments, and really, really interesting stuff there.
Yeah, and so like I've been looking forward to that, and kind of trying to clean up the brew area for that, because that'll be kind of like a bigger brew day, like start 3 batches all in one day, and then having to monkey with them, every day for like a week, couple times a day or whatever. But like I said, I really want to do another Bochet, and I've been kind of obsessed with Bochet and Meadow Foam. I really want to do that, and so I don't know if it's okay if I say this, but I'm planning a barrel project with Kevin Meinsma and Josh Holbrook, which are like by far better homebrewers than I am, and I'm so glad they're like trusting me, a session mead maker, to make a standard strength mead to blend with their stuff, and I'm trying to see trying to push them to do a Meadow Foam Bochet, but if that doesn't work, I'm definitely going to do it, and I would like to do a Meadow Foam Bochet, and maybe add some maple syrup to it or something. I just feel like that just sounds so good in December, November, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Well,
that's
Adam,
on my mind.
I hope that you know, Kevin and Josh and you guys can work out something, and if there's ever something a little too out there that they don't want to do, I'll do a group brew with you. You know, you and me can do one. I've got you're a session strength brewer. I'm typically a session strength brewer. I think the two of us could come up with something. I don't know how good it'll be, but we'll give it a college try.
We're doing something. I don't know if they're comfortable with burning up some $9 a pound honey. So that's the dilemma.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I mean. I'm saying if you want to do something that they won't do, give me a call.
Oh man, Meadow Foam Bochet Braggot. Oh, that'd be so good.
Oh wow, that does sound good. Holy cow! Wow, Jeff. Anything you want to jump in here with Adam before we need to cut him loose here?
So, geez, with all of the different meads you've made, you talked about a bunch of different sessions and a bunch of different Bochet styles. Any like surprises or really interesting stuff that you came up with that you kind of weren't expecting? What's been the most interesting you've put in a bottle over the course of this pandemic?
Yeah. Okay, so I won a gallon of Josh Holbrook, his basswood honey, which is what he took. It's exceptional honey. It came with a honey report. It's super high pollen count basswood, and I got it. It's just so good. And I was like, okay, I like had ideas of what I wanted to do with it. So I was like, well, let's start. I was like, all right, so I'm gonna fermented it out, and in the process, I'm like texting and I'm like, I had all these different ideas of what I wanted to do with it, and I knew I wanted to do something with citrus, just because basswood plays really well with citrus, and I mean Josh is giving me pointers, and I mean he's like basswood master, and so I didn't know what I was gonna do, but then I ended up adding Montmorency cherries, juice some lemon and juice some lime in it. Just kind of thinking about like, I was started thinking about like when my mom used to bring me to like taverns when I was a kid, and she'd give me a kitty cocktail. So I was like, well, I'll do like a kitty cocktail mead with basswood honey, and it kind of surprised me how not kitty cocktail it turned out to end up tasting kind of like a Powerade. But really good. Like I'm very happy with it how it turned out. But it was it worked really good with the honey, I think. And that's a mead where I almost never use just one honey, and I had to use one for that one. Like I had to. And I think hindsight, and I have enough. I should just do straight up basswood, just to do Josh justice. But I probably just should have done a basswood trad. But am happy with how this turned out. And I kind of did that one for a little bit for my mom, and she liked it. But that surprised me, like how different that turned out once I added the juices of the two citrus and then the cherries aged on it. It was like, it tastes like a sports drink. Like it's odd, but odd in a good way.
Good stuff. Well, Adam, thank you so much for joining us here at the house again, the third time. Glad to see that you're still at it. I wished sometimes I just wish the hell I lived in Minnesota, where we could all be together one more time. I remember seeing you up there at the Ironbee. I think you just make phenomenal mead, and I'm glad you're sticking with it and putting out some awesome stuff.
Thanks, JD. Yeah, this has been great. I love talking to you guys, and whenever we can get together again, or if the Ironbee's up here again, oh man, that'd be great. That was that was so much fun getting together. Like for real, that was
Yeah, it
like
was.
didn't want to leave. That was so much fun.
Yeah, tell me about it. That was my, that first one up there for me was just a blast. I came home just totally mesmerized at what had taken place over those few days, and I mean, it was an eye opener for big time, and good stuff. Anyway, Adam, again, thank you for sitting with us here at the Mead House, and look to have you back again soon.
For sure,
Adam,
anytime.
Thanks for coming on. I'm gonna try the rest of your bottles here, and I'll let you know what I think. I hope you enjoy the rest of those, and let me know. Let me know what you think of those as well.
I will, for sure. All right, guys. Great talking.
Take care, Adam.
All right, later.
All right, Adam Bystrom. I remember him up there at the R&B. I mean, the guy just makes just excellent stuff. I mean, that first show he was on, Ryan, episode 129, he'd only been making mead for a year and a half and just had amassed a mountain of medals,
Yeah, he is. There are some brewers out there and mead makers as well, and probably wine makers and cider makers, and every other kind of maker that they brew specifically to win medals. And I know some of these guys. They learn categories really well, and they just brew to win medals in those categories.
Mm-hmm.
Adam is a guy who he just brews really, really, really good stuff, and it happens to win medals. So, don't think of this guy as one of those medal hounds who just because they're out there. That's all they do.
Yeah.
But he's a guy who just constantly makes really good stuff, and the judges see that without him kind of pandering, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. All right. Segment 2. Checking in with the show notes this afternoon. I saw this. I saw part of the notes that says, "I'm in the mood to talk sour stuff. Let's throw some ideas around the table for making tart sour mead for spring summer." I thought for sure that this came from Ryan, because Ryan has talked before about sour. He likes his sours, and he's talked about brewing sours at his place, Mead House North. So I thought for sure that this was Ryan's deal, but it's not. This actually came from Jeff.
Nope. No, I have been on a sour kick lately, and this Scare, what is it? The Ozarks wheat sour ale that I was talking about at the top of the show has kind of been one of a couple sours that I've been drinking lately. That, man, it's really just kind of making me go, wow, that's this. There's something to this. It's just hitting all the right refreshing notes, and so yeah, no, I know we've talked a little bit about sours before, but I figured it'd be fun to kind of rehash, throw some different ideas around, and see kind of what we come up with. Obviously with any kind of a sour beer, first there are bugs, for lack of a better term, bacterial cultures like Pediococcus or Lactobacillus you could throw in there to get that ball rolling. But it occurs to me there are just a ton of different ways to skin this cat. I mean, we could do tart ingredients like raspberry or hibiscus, and even some actual sour ingredients like vinegar, like we talked about last week.
I kind of lean more towards the fruit part. I can't say that I sit here that I've had a ton of sour beers, but the very few that I have had just don't do much for me. I get this metal tasting sour flavor in my mouth that I just don't really like. Now I don't know if that's the particular brand or maybe the ingredients. I have no idea. I had a few and I stopped, and so
Hmm.
maybe you two can enlighten me on some brews that might be out there that I might be able to find on the shelf that might twist my mind up a little bit and make me think a little twice about it. But as far as sours and tarts, I would kind of go along with the raspberries, the fruity types of things that you
Hmm.
could incorporate into sours. I made a raspberry. I guess you could call it a sour here. That was a couple of years ago. It was quite
Right.
sour, and it was good on a hot summer day when it was ice cold. Not so good on a winter's day when it's like 35 degrees out on the front porch. So I get that whole part too, but I could see where sours in summer would mix up pretty good. Now, the other thing that I really like too is margaritas. Okay, my wife has started taking a liking to these Tom Collins, which is it's
Hmm.
basically lemon juice for all intents and purposes. And so it's got a tartness to it as well. So I would love to do something with the lime, lemon, margarita like type brew, mead,
Sure.
even a braggot, in that respect, and introduce some tartness and some sourness into it.
Yeah. Well, and I could see a kind of a citrusy session mead being going down real easy on
Sure,
a
yeah.
hot summer day. I mean, you could go the kind of the margarita ish route and go a little bit more like orange and lime. You could definitely
Oh,
go
yeah.
lemon. I had an idea about a like a raspberry lemon session.
Mm.
Uh, that
Hmm.
sounds like it could be real fun.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so yeah, no, that just using fruit that is a little bit more tart in nature sounds like a really valid approach to this, especially because there are some problems with introducing bugs and stuff. You got to be careful with how you're going to do that to make sure you're not inadvertently like just spoiling all your equipment and making everything you make from that point on sour.
I think the trick is I think the trick is, finding out where that balance is between too sour and not sour enough. You know what I mean? Because it's even with raspberries, it's very easy to go way overboard, and we're talking ounces here, not pounds, just ounces. Okay,
Sure.
uh, so I think finding that balance between too tart or too sour and not sour enough, maybe that's the trick here somewhere. I don't know.
Well, and I think that's also kind of why I'm leaning in more of a session mead direction with this. Not only because, yeah, no, I want something light and refreshing for hot summer days, but also I think something with a hint or a perceptible amount of raspberry flavor without being a total fruit bomb
Right.
is probably the way to go here. You don't want to overwhelm your palate with a lot of fruit flavor, but you want something maybe a touch stronger than some of those hard seltzers that were all the rage last year, but
Yeah.
still kind of in that light and easy drinking, fruity, bubbly kind of a style.
Funny you should mention the hard seltzers. I finally found a brand that I really like. Was never much of a big fan with the hard seltzers, but I did find one brand that I really like. Cacti, I think
Hmm.
it's called. It's actually made with agave, and it the fruit flavors. It tastes like real fruit to me, not imitation fruit.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
and they have a lime that is it's not sour, but the lime flavor, it's not like sucking on a lime. Okay, it's not like having a drink that's made with lime, but it's more a hint of like taking the zest of a lime. Okay, which is
Okay.
quite different than the juice of a lime. Okay, that flavor. If you ever smelled a lime on the outside, okay, that zesty, limey flavor or aroma that you get is what this cacti lime seltzer tastes like. And it's really good. Not quite the sour that we're talking about here, but Ryan, you played around with sours, right? Ryan, you got to unmute your mic. He's probably sleeping.
Yeah, no, I'm awake tonight. Yeah, I've played around with sours quite um, quite a bit, and um, the you said you haven't found some that you liked or things like that. I'd say that a good kind of a good place to start if you're completely a novice in this realm is you find it in any liquor store or most liquor stores across the country is Lindemans. So Lindemans is a Belgian beer. Their goose is the non-flavored, so just the hop, the yeast, the water and the hops, yeast, water, barley, and the bugs basically in there, and that's like standard, the goose. But then there's all of their flavors. They've got all these different flavored varieties as well. But and those can be good. You can try those out. But I'd start definitely at least if not starting there, try it. Try the goose. Um, and go from there. Because that's an easy one to find. I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
lot of others out there as well. But Lindemans, it's just standard, easy one to start with if it's your first sour. It's a lambic,
All right.
and go from there. Um, okay, I make sour braggots, and there's kind of a couple ways to make the braggot. You've got to give the 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 bugs, as we're calling them tonight here, the bacterias or bugs, that kind of thing, something to kind of hold on to, because honey is tough to sour. So you do that with malt. You can do that with your malt. You can do that with maltodextrin. You can do that with sorghum. You can. There's different things you can do. Now you can. A lot of sours are blended. They are they're that's what they are. So you can make like a sour beer, and then you can blend it, and you would actually be doing the style that several of the sour brewers do. Maybe a traditional, and you blend that um, with a sour beer and go from there. The other thing to do is making your braggot wort with your honey in it, and then introducing the whatever it is as well, whatever kind of blend cultures that you're gonna put in there. Uh, I like. I've done both. I've done both ways, and just depends on how much control you want. Some people really like being able to dial in and nail the control exactly the way what they want. Other people, when they make sours, kind of feel like you're going on a journey. In some of these sour makers I know, they put something in a barrel and they close it up, and like 3 years later, it's like opening a treasure chest, because you don't know what's going to be in there. You hope it's a treasure chest. You hope it's not a septic tank.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun stuff. Now I'm talking about kind of the traditional souring, not the kettle souring, which is souring your wort basically, and then boiling it and fermenting. I don't do that because I think it doesn't give you quite the complexity or um, the complexity or character that you get when you do it a little more long term, a little more naturally. But not to say that you can't make a good one kettle souring either. Anyway, I don't want to ramble too much more, so I'll kind of pause there. But I think there's a lot of great stuff you can do with it.
Pickled plum, Jeff. I just saw that in the show notes. Is that like a Kansas City thing, or what is pickled plum?
Oh no. This is it's actually a Japanese thing. You can pick this up at most Asian markets. They're pickled plums, or you usually see them listed as umeboshi. You might see these on like videos on the internet where people dare each other to eat them, because it is like they are tiny little things about the size, maybe a little bit bigger than a marble, and they pack such a sour punch that like people take a bite and their face just puckers immediately. So it occurred to me, if you just want a little bit of that sour flavor, that could be an interesting thing to throw in. Just, maybe half a dozen of those at most, maybe 3 to a gallon, and leave that in there for a while, see what happens, because why not?
Well, it's pickled plums.
Well, and my thought is, you make a gallon of that, and like Ryan said, you can always blend up later. So
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, take another gallon of sweet mead and kind of just add to it until you get to a level of sourness you can handle if it's a little over soured, and just kind of see what happens.
It used to be I don't know so much in the old days, but I do remember when I first started out working with this other guy whose name I won't mention, and one of my first meads, we would constantly talk about the acidity.
Mm-hmm.
And he had me adding all kinds of this acid, that acid, and whatnot, to the point where it just it tasted like you were licking a lead pipe. I mean, it was bad, really bad. And so that's kind of I don't know. I kind of stayed away from sour stuff in that respect. Mm-hmm. As far as lactobacillus or getting into some of these, funky fermentations, I think I would be more apt in using fruits and that kind of thing, pickled plum, or even see what I'm still kind of enthused about this whole balsamic vinegar thing.
Mm-hmm.
And what that would bring to a mead. Perhaps introducing vinegar into a mead, make it a sour mead somehow. I don't know how you would go about doing that. What, just pour a cup of vinegar into the, into the mead, or a tablespoon into the bottle. I have no idea. I have no idea how you'd even approach that.
Yeah, well, I would think, when I threw out the idea of adding vinegar, I was kind of alluding more to the switchel beverage that we were talking about than like the balsamic, although I think either is a totally valid direction for experimenting. But my thought was, take something like apple cider vinegar. Obviously, you want to make sure it's shelf stable. It's not like a live culture kind of a thing, but just add that little at a time to kind of spike it and give it a little bit of that hint of vinegar flavor to an otherwise flavored meat. I mean, I think a nice fruit blend or something like that with a little bit of that vinegar punch, it gives it some bright acidity and a little bit of that zing to take it just to the next level. So I think that could be good too.
Can you infuse vinegars? Like, I've got, I have 3 bottles of olive oil on my kitchen counter. One's got thyme in it, one's got rosemary in it, one's got garlic. Actually, 4 bottles. One is just plain extra virgin olive oil, and then the other 3, one has thyme, one has garlic, and one has rosemary. And I use that in cooking. So I'm wondering if you could infuse vinegar
I'm
with.
Fairly certain you could. I mean,
I've never heard of it, but of course I've never looked it up either. But
right. Well, and I think I would try it with, rather than using just the plain old white vinegar off the shelf at your supermarket. I'd get a nicer bottle of some apple cider or some red wine vinegar or something like that, and try it with that. So you're kind of adding to the flavors that are already in there, rather than trying to just make a vinegar and rosemary, for example, infusion.
Yeah. Well, certainly. I mean, certainly. This is an avenue that we haven't been down before, and certainly worth giving it a shot. Summertime. Well, I don't know about where you live, but it was like 91 here the other day. Ha ha ha. So it's summertime is here. I mean, winter's over, summer's here. I mean, spring lasted about 3 hours, uh, and so it's definitely summertime here now. So summertime brews. I mean, I should have been working on them months ago. I don't have anything in any fermenters because we're taking off for our big trip in June. Going to be gone the whole month, and I didn't want to start anything and leave it unattended, while I was gone. So we just purposely didn't do anything. But so I have no summertime stuff in the fermenter. Uh,
Right.
when I return, I'm kind of looking forward to doing some things. I mean, this whole sour thing. I'd love to put something together that has kind of a margarita type thing. The lime, carbonated a little bit. I've taken to drinking my margaritas now with a little bit of club soda splashed on the top. That's pretty good. Makes a nice little refreshing drink. So, introducing some tequila flavors in there somehow, agave, lime, that kind of thing. And then maybe souring it up a little bit with a little bit of extra lime juice or something that, keeping control over it, of course. But
Sure. Yeah.
I think this is probably a kind of a fun thing to do, and certainly kind of a fun discussion here. Like I said, something we haven't talked about in the past. So, moving on here, guys. The social club, or Ryan, did you have something else to say?
You know, sours can be a great summer beverage, especially when you consider on the mead side that a lot of sours are relatively moderate strength. Like 6-ish%.
Yeah.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think they can be great. Now, you make, depending on how you're making them, you make it now to be ready for next year. But yeah, absolutely. I like the idea.
Perfect. Okay, the social club. This is, of course, where we try to answer questions based on no formal expertise other than what we've experienced in our own brew house. Start this one off, guys. This is not in the show notes, but I got this email. I completely overlooked it. This came back on April 12th. This is out of the mailbag. This is from Miriam White. And I don't know if you guys saw this or not, but this is actually for Jeff. She says she's in need of the full recipe of the chamomile methyl, dry hibiscus chamomile metheglin.
Chamomile.
Chamomile, chamomile. Where did I get that from? Uh, the Greek dictionary, maybe. I don't know. Hey, I'm in need of a full recipe. This meat was only printed off the first page. I'm not quite sure how she got that, and now it's no longer on your site. Yeah, the recipes have long disappeared a long time ago. So probably, Jeff, I'll probably have to ask you if you can get a hold of Miriam. And I've got her email address that I will gladly send, unless you've got it already and saw this, but maybe we can help her out.
Yeah, I think I saw that in the mailbag and forgot to get back to her on that one. Yeah, I can shoot her that recipe.
Perfect.
No, that must have been an age and a day ago, because I think that was one of the first recipes that I contributed to the show back in like the single digits.
Oh yeah. We started kind of a repository of different recipes, and then we kind of made a unanimous decision way back when that we didn't want to become a repository. we wanted people coming here for the show, not for the recipes. Recipes are a dime a dozen, are all over the place out there.
Mhm.
And so we made that decision. I apologize, Miriam, for not having getting back to you, but we will. Um, this one, first up, guys. Okay, this is from Administrative Cold 89. I love these guys' names. I need to be a Reddit user just to go and just cruise the names. Uh, Administrative Cold 89. I recently received 72 pounds of honey for free, and I want to make a few big batches of mead. Up until this point, I've just been using 5-gallon buckets. What's the best budget fermenter setup? You're using them right now, 5-gallon buckets, right? Anybody else?
You know,
Yeah.
We might have
I
tackled this
got
once before too. I don't know.
yeah, for budget, if you want to go, on the best budget, the 5 gallon bucket's good. I mean, you can try that. Also, relatively cheap are, well, we get two options here. Glass carboys. We've talked about these, but you can always find cheap glass carboys on like Craigslist. I mean, $10 or so, $10, $15, $20, depending on, whatever, but those are pretty cheap. Or if you want to go plastic, you can, there's things like the Big Mouth bubbler or the Better bottle or things like that are out there. These kind of plastic primary and secondary fermenters that are good to use. And then we've talked about going, kegs too, fermenting in kegs. And if you can
Okay,
also
we need
find
we
those.
need we need to stop right there. One of you has a bad feedback. Check your mic, hook up your plugs.
Sorry, was that it?
That's better now.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Ryan, I need you to start that one over again.
Okay.
In fact, let's start the whole thing over again. We're going to start from the top. Okay. Okay, so this one is from Administrative Cold 89. Opinions wanted. I recently received 72 pounds of honey for free and want to make a few big batches of mead. Up until this point, I've been using just 5-gallon buckets. What's the best budget fermenter setup? Well, you're using it, 5-gallon buckets. That's the best budget fermenter that I know of. Ryan, you got any ideas here?
Oh, first of all, I'd like to know where to get the 72 pounds of free honey and where I can sign up for some of that next time.
There you go.
Okay. Yeah. Again, 5 gallon buckets are yeah. If you want to go real cheap, those are real cheap. The next thing you can do is, again, if we've talked about glass, and glass can be tricky, but you can always buy used carboys on like Craigslist. They're always out there. You can get those for $10 to $20 in that range. And that's cheap. The next one is, I've talked about plastic. So you can get, like the Big Mouth bubblers or the Better bottles. And if you find those on sale at the right place, they can be pretty cheap. But you gotta find them on sale at the right time, and those are great. And then lastly, we've talked about um, uh, you know, kegs, fermenting in kegs.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna do that, I'd also go used. I'd go to Craigslist or find a place. People are always selling used kegs, and you can ferment in those just fine as well. And tighten them down. You can ferment under a little bit of pressure, and we've talked about that in the past too. How that can be fun. All right, so those are kind of three options, but I mean they all kind of boil down some of them kind of boil down to what you can find used. I mean, there are always people who are making the mistake of getting out of this hobby, and you can usually pick up their stuff on the cheap as they just want to clean out the room. So check that out.
There you go.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was going to say, perfect answer. I mean, the 5-gallon buckets, if you're going to buy new, they are the cheapest option right now. But Ryan gave you a number of options for, if you can find it, right place, right time. There are other options out there.
Absolutely. Lemon straps, Jeff. He wants to know if you can use opaque juices, if your mead will clear using opaque juices. Juices like orange juice and pomegranate are not very see-through. Will this stop the mead from getting to its peak transparency?
So, the first thing I think of when I think of opaque juice versus a clear product, make a cider.
Yeah.
You start with the cloudiest, junkiest, kind of brownish crud. Opaque is all get out, and by the time the yeast is done doing their thing, it's clear as glass. I don't think you have a lot to worry about as long as you're taking it into the fermentation and letting the yeast kind of chew on some of that the fruit and the fructose and get into all the good stuff. If you're going to back sweeten with it, then I'm not sure. I would think you could try something like a fining agent and get it pretty clear, but I've just never tried that. So I'd say as long as you're letting the yeast chew on it, though, nothing to worry about.
Yeah, and I've never fermented orange juice before, so I'm not even sure how that would even taste.
I'm pretty sure that's a little acidic for yeast to chew on all by itself.
Yeah, but I do get the pomegranate and all the other stuff. Also, don't forget to you might want to plop in a little bit of that pectic enzyme. That certainly wouldn't hurt. So round up all those little proteins and drop them to the bottom. Or the pectin rather out of some of that fruit. They do float around in there, and some of those fruit juices. I mean, it might look clear to you, but sometimes I think that will help along the way. Frisky. Here's another one. I love these names. Frisky Michalek. I don't know, Jeff. Tell me what this guy's name. Frisky Michalek.
I would say Frisky McCulloch.
McCulloch. Okay. Star Sound versus One Step. This is actually a great question. Okay. We could have easily have used this for a segment 2 segment. And when I saw this, and he wants to know Star Sound versus One Step. Okay. What's the difference between Star Sound sanitizers that's highly talked about and the One Step sanitizer? I mean, there's a ton of them out there. I mean, it's not just One Step. There's a lot of different kinds of sanitizers. Said he's made a few batches of mead now and have always used One Step. Is there a big difference between these two? Have any horror stories for mead going bad because of improper sanitization? You really don't even want to go there, but take a stab at it, Jeff.
So I am not 100% on the actual contents of One Step, but if I remember correctly, it's fairly similar to like PBW in that it's more of a cleanser than a sanitizer,
right,
so to speak. From what I've been told, working in the brew shop, it has some sanitizing qualities to it, and I know people that have used it as like a literal One Step of we're gonna clean it and we're gonna sanitize it all in one go. I don't know how effective that would be compared to Star Sand, which is an acid-based sanitizer with like I think 1 minute contact time when it's been mixed properly. So that has been my go-to for almost as long as I've been a home brewer, to be perfectly honest with you. So I mean, if it works for me, I've not really had a reason to change it.
Yeah, and if you catch some of the one of the earlier episodes when Mississippi Chris was with us, he worked in a medical industry, and he said that in hospitals sometimes routinely rotate their sanitizing chemicals around. Now he was a big proponent of iodophor, but he said he would use iodophor for 6 months, and then go to Star San for 6 months, and then go to something different for 6 months. I don't know if that's. I mean, I don't work in a hospital. I mean, my kitchen certainly. Of course, I can say this. When I first started out, I was very anal about this stuff. My kitchen, you could operate. You could do heart surgery on my countertop. It was that clean. Uh, so I was pretty anal about sanitizing everything, and even to the point of wearing rubber gloves and an apron when I made my meat. So, Ryan, sanitizers, anything you can share here as far as the difference between One Step, Star San? I mean, I think if you keep a clean environment and keep your utensils clean and your utilities clean, I think you're good to go.
Yeah, so One Step actually doesn't claim to be a sanitizer. It says it's like a if you read it, actually it says like it's a one step um, cleaner and says no rinsing. I mean, it gives you the directions to use as a like a sanitizer. Like, oh, soak for 2 minutes and no rinsing, but it doesn't actually stay on it. Um, Sanitizer. I think it actually says on it. Uh, Technically, it's a cleaner, but it does have some sanitizing properties. And so okay. I did an experiment once with this because I had some One Step, and I did the experiment of I'm gonna I'm gonna just take bottles. These bottles are pretty clean. I mean, maybe they had a little dust on them or something from just sitting around, but I mean, I rinsed them off. They weren't like gunky or crusty or anything like that. And I soaked them in the One Step, for longer than 2 minutes. I mean, they were in there for a while. And then I dried them and I bottled. I had some stuff and I bottled it right in there. And I was prepared for this stuff to be like, it's kind of off. Something happened in there. Um, and it didn't. Whether I got lucky or whether there is some sanitizing properties through in there, I don't know. But I will say that if you're in a pinch, now again, not recommended. I'm not recommending this because I don't have enough information on it. But if you're in a pinch and oh my gosh, it's bottling day and all you have is One Step and am I going to be okay? Yeah, you might be okay. I mean, I wouldn't go into a huge panic about that. But at the same time, uh, I think about cleaner and sanitizer the same way I think about insurance and investments.
Hmm.
Insurance and investments are different products and should be treated separately. And cleaner and sanitizer are different products and should be treated separately. With that being said, again, I did an experiment for the sake of listener land that if you bottle after using One Step, I was okay. So I wouldn't freak out too much.
There you go. All right. I'm going to skip down one, guys, because I'm pretty sure we handled the Pepe Trump 2016 already. It rings a bell. If not, we will certainly get to it next week, next show. Um, this next one, again, these Reddit guys and their names. Cruza Blufflig something or other 123. Cruci Blufflig. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3.
One of these days we're gonna have to invite these guys on the show just so they can pronounce their names for us. Uh, Thoughts on a natural way to do a blue raspberry recipe. Says his favorite melomel was raspberry friggin' delicious. Was thinking of blue raspberry would be really fun, and it would be a good excuse to finally rip off Jewish monk and do a pea blossom brew. I figure blue raspberry is just raspberry but more sour. Here we go with the sour thing. Well, I'm going to toss this one over to Ryan. Although, if you guys think that there's more to it, I'm all ears. I have a thing saved somewhere by some guy that chronicled. I love that. I got a thing saved somewhere by some guy chronicled this process making soured meads as purposeful infection, not just high acid. Got that. But it seems like a lot of work and a lot could go wrong. All the old posts, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so bottom line, Ryan, the guy's looking to do a blue raspberry, kind of a ripoff on a Jewish monk pea blossom brew. What do you think?
All right, so his first line here says, thoughts on a natural way to do a blue raspberry. And so okay, so you think about like blue raspberry, and a lot of people probably think of the icy machine,
Mm-hmm.
At the 7-Eleven.
Mm-hmm.
You walk into the 7-Eleven and they got that, they got big handle, and there's the blue and the red, and you can make like a slushy. Okay?
Never tasted like the colors they represented. Yeah.
So I think like red was strawberry and the blue was raspberry. There's no such thing in nature as a blue raspberry. You go ask any berry farmer, go to any berry patch, go anywhere in the world, and you're not going to find a blue raspberry. Raspberries are red. That's just the color they are. I think the blue raspberry was because they couldn't have two red slushies. The red slushie was a strawberry slushie, and they were going to confuse people if they had another red slushie that was a raspberry slushie.
Yeah.
So they created, how about blue raspberry? That makes sense. But when you say a natural way to do a blue raspberry, we can make a blue mead and we can make it raspberry flavored, but now we might be getting liberal with your definition of natural.
So I'm going to caveat this here because the blue raspberry flavor, there are not blue raspberries in nature, but the blue raspberry flavor, I looked into this a little bit ages ago from my own curiosity, and blue raspberry is actually it's inspired by and supposed to mimic white raspberries, which are a natural variety of raspberry like black raspberries. Just generally more tart.
Golden raspberries. I've had those. Those are,
Yeah. So, if you can plant or find a sufficient supply of white raspberry, you might be on the right track. At one point he mentions in here the idea of using some blue raspberry Jolly Ranchers, which I think at that point you're kind of just circling back to the same idea of like using unnatural flavors and the
food coloring.
Right. So, I'm kind of in that whole, you should probably just do a raspberry and figure out a way to make it blue.
Food coloring. Yeah, get in your grandmother's baking cabinet and get out the blue food coloring. Yeah, I think so. Okay, I think that pretty much does it right there. So, but we're going to call it a night right here. And my Stick Shadow 669, he wants to know how to get rid of fruit smell from a bucket. And then Stu Right Stuff, he wants to know, should I sample before bottling it? I tell you, we're going to answer those next week when we come back here at the house. But in the meantime, hey, thanks for hanging out with us this episode. And a big thank you to Adam Bystrom for his third appearance here at the house, spending some time with us here. And hey, if you want to get on the show, it's real easy. All you got to do is just let us know what you're brewing. Email us, info@themeathouse.com, or just send us a message on that Facebook deal or Twitter, both at the Mead House, and we'll set up a date and talk to you about it and get you on the show. In the meantime, happy mead making. That's going to be it for this episode of Mead House. Hey, Ryan, flip the lights off. Don't you get old hearing that like every week? Ryan, flip the lights off. I should maybe switch it up. Ryan, slam the door shut. Jeff, flip the lights. Oh, that's going to be hard to do now. After doing it how many freaking times? Give me a break. All right, I'll tell you what. Hey, we'll be back next week with episode 197. I'll lock the damn place up, flip the lights off. Hey, we're gone.